recording from my existential void to place a message into a bottle for whomever this message will reach. I'm doing this one live, as there is just no capability to sit down or to focus or to do what I would normally do, which is write down a bunch of notes just to be sure that I have not missed anything. So we're going to just see what comes through today, and that's going to hopefully be the message that is meant for whomever, whatever ears this message is reaching. Now, this video is being broadcast under our second full moon in Aquarius this year of 2021. This will be taking place on August 22nd. This full moon in Aquarius is occurring while the moon's nodes are transiting the planetary nodes of Uranus, within several days of Uranus stationing retrograde. Uranus just stationed retrograde within the last 24 hours, and with Saturn in Uranus' sign of Aquarius in a third quarter square to Uranus. Folks, this is an incredibly Uranian, Aquarian period. Unpredictable, restless, charged, challenging for us to continue these regular rhythms that we are more than likely experiencing. A lack of congruency. Everything's getting thrown off. There's curveballs, there's distractions, there's interferences, rattling our species, rattling our consciousness. And this is the time for breakdown. This is the time to be experiencing this existential frustration. The reality is, folks, we are a seed in the earth of a completely different reality. But we have not yet burst out of our shell. This bursting out of the shell is ongoing. But what we experience as the collective seed is this existential pain and frustration. We're boxed in. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to escape. Where do we go from here? This is the necessary breakdown that is taking down not only the boundaries and structures of our world, but the boundaries and the structures of our own consciousness, of our own belief system, what we know and assume to be possible. So this second full moon in Aquarius is conjoined Jupiter retrograde. Jupiter is the ruler of the current south node of the moon in Sagittarius. There is something about reflecting upon beliefs. There's something about reflecting upon our ontology, our system of meaning through which we make sense of the world. This ontology can be very much challenged right now, like that seed in the earth, to break down its limitations, to reinvent our perspective and our orientation to the whole of life itself. But this can be challenging. Like I said, there is a tremendous tension. Now, with this Jupiter signature, there can also be tremendous expansion, growth, opportunities. The future is coming in faster than we knew is possible. The future is coming in before we recognize that it is the future, because the future is unknown, it is mysterious, it is incongruent, it does not necessarily make sense with our past experiences. And this is why there is this need to renew our philosophy, Jupiter, by reflecting on the past, south node of the moon in Sagittarius. Asteroid Juno, the partnership asteroid, has been transiting that south node even these last few weeks. We've really been exploring philosophies and even reliving old relationships, developing our own ontological perspectives through the mirror of the other. Now, let's get some of the basics checked off. So full moon in Aquarius, this is also going to bring tremendous expansion in communities. There's a beautiful grand air trine between Venus in her own sign of Libra, Saturn in Aquarius, the moon's north node in Gemini. Wonderful opportunity for social connections, for collaborations, meeting new people in new places. You know, a lot of the tension, the breakdown, is forcing a re-networking, is forcing new community directions, that are bringing in new perspectives. And I'm going to provide some examples and give my own commentary, as I always do in these videos, to just provide some sense of how this can be going on in all of us. So this can bring quick expansion. There's tremendous need for self-reflection, and it's going to be difficult to hold the old pattern and path. I think that it's a better time to just break away from the old pattern and path, even if that may seem unusual, even if that's not something we're used to, or we feel a little bit guilty because we're not doing or following the old beaten path, and we're not needing to live up to those old expectations. This is a time that's going to really force this. What did good girls and bad girls used to do in our old approach to life, and are we able to keep up those old standards in those old ways? There are things that we might want to do and want to see in the world, but we're having to be realistic about where the world actually is, where the species actually is, how we are coming together, and is it really working? Another major theme that I want to get off the bat here, because I know people's attention span aren't even the 6 minutes I've talked so far, is disassociation. This is a full moon square the nodes of the moon. Aquarius, Uranus rules the phenomenon of disassociation. Now, disassociation does not have to be a negative thing. This is a coping mechanism for when we have the experience of trauma. Too much overwhelming our body and our nervous system in one particular time period, we dissociate in order to cope, in order to continue to survive. So disassociation is somewhat necessary for our own survival, but can we not notice and see right now that this is a collective theme? That we are being so overwhelmed by experience. Uranus, Aquarius, rules the nervous system. We're being so overwhelmed by the alarmingly fast-paced progress, reinventiveness, breaking down of the old. We can very well go and be reviewing our old coping mechanisms for how we dissociate, how we check out, how we escape from this world when this world is too much for us to be fully present within. So we must acknowledge this theme, this dynamic of disassociation. How can we live our lives as increasingly healthy and supportive human beings in a day and age when we are not provided the necessary teachings or philosophies or support to get to what we need? If we are in a hell realm situation and we don't know how to get out of hell, and we don't know how to provide the things that would end hell, what do we do? And the answer is many of us go crazy. Many of us dissociate. We start inventing realities that aren't there. We start creating circumstances that gives us a sense of meaning that is not necessarily helpful or real, but it allows for us to cope with everything that is undigested, overwhelming, spilling over the sides of our life and our experience, because that's the experience that we can all very much be relating to at this time. And I have to say here, it's every video, but especially this one, it is challenging to provide all of the different outcomes and possibilities in terms of the many thousands and millions of people that are living and experiencing this full moon. The truth is, any astrologer that you make any contact with, you're going to be hearing from their subjective reality. You're going to be hearing from their subjective experiences. I do my best to attempt to label and discern. This is me attempting to speak objectively, versus when I am obviously speaking from a subjective or a personal space. Okay, so we're really exploring human needs, human philosophies. There's all of this around belief system with Jupiter and Sagittarius. There's all of this around cult-like dynamics, the one-size-fits-all. What works for us should work for everybody else. And it's an enormously dangerous blind spot for our entire humanity. That's what we're going to shine a light on today. That's some of the personal example that that I'm going to share here. But again, while we're talking about Aquarius, just to get out some of these major building blocks, the major themes, is we're talking about the future. We're talking about community building. We're talking about the need for objective perspective in order to understand what are the chemical reactions taking place on this planet. Coronavirus is one of those chemical reactions. Vaccination, science, this is all being very, very widely debated, right? There's no agreement here. It's tense. It's all disagreements and fighting and crusading. And, this is where our species is at. Science is Aquarius. Do we as a species have a perfect grip on science? Are we in a perfect world? Do we live in a perfect reality? No. But we're looking at science. We're looking at how does science work? How can we improve this chemical reaction so that way we can bring more health, more interconnectivity as Aquarius, right? How can we actually get on the same page to bring good health, to bring charity as Jupiter? It's like, let's bring this humanitarian spirit. How can we honor this humanitarian spirit? And I will tell you, some of the answer to this question is in the transiting moon's north node, as always. I mean, we as astrologers hopefully know about the north node of the moon, because there's a lot of talk about astrology and not a lot of how to use it effectively. The north node of the moon is the current evolutionary intentions of the time. And Gemini has something to do with diversity. Diversity, there not being a one-size-fits-all. This means when it comes to the complications of life, we have to reach people on the individual level. It's a case-by-case experience whenever we're dealing with anything, let alone medications, healing approaches, and the needs of our species. This is the bottom line. If anybody's going to hear anything, I want the bottom line here to be all of this Aquarius, right, is ruled by Uranus in Taurus. All of this revolution is taking place in Taurus. What is Taurus? Natural biological rhythms, basic survival needs. Money, resources, food, agriculture, culture, shelter, natural sexual functioning, reproduction, right? That's Taurus. It is basic human needs. All of this disturbances and revolutions and breakdowns, and nobody knows what's real and what isn't real. It's all to get us back to what do we need to survive as a species. Uranus and Taurus. Uranus is the species. Taurus is survival. Guess what? This is planet Earth right now. This is not simply a believe the right thing, the spaceships land and everybody ascends type of reality. This is a what do we do to get our shit together? And absolutely, disconnection. That's what we're looking at as a species. Are we connected to our basic human needs? And it's unbelievable how disconnected we are. I cannot believe that I am attempting to put into words what I am about to share with you next. With the south node of the moon in Sagittarius, the north node in Gemini, it is extraordinarily challenging to talk about any universal underlying truths in a way that's actually going to be heard and received. Because when we start talking about religion and we start talking about belief systems, I don't know, have you noticed that people get a little bit defensive? It's a little personal, right? When it comes to our belief system, our relationship to God, nature, spirit, it's a pretty delicate area. It's very personal. We take these beliefs very seriously. We take these beliefs so personally. It's unbelievable how much some of us, or all of us, I should rather say, can completely run our human nature straight into the ground. Folks, we are at the tail end of a patriarchal period in an age of Pisces. We have had no idea what it means to be a human being. We lost most of our humanity in the Pisces age. And the fact is, I'm about to share what should be an obviously loving teaching 2,000 years after Jesus Christ gave his message. And we have no idea what compassion is or love is, because we're always using these belief systems in order to avoid what was, and hopefully is still, common sense. Taurus, common sense. Food, shelter, basic human needs. And are we creating systems of support to get there? Or are we creating systems of support to get away from there? It's absolutely unbelievable where we are in terms of belief systems and spirituality in this day and age. Any spiritual school of thought is charged full of patriarchal, misogynist, racist prejudices. Every single mainstream religion. If you studied the history of mainstream religion, every single school of thought. I am getting used to people proclaiming their priestess secret lineage while at the same time just preaching straight up patriarchy and the denial of the body and the denial of the senses and the denial of our emotional existence as if those things should not exist at all. Our supposed healers and our supposed teachers are teaching us how to go fucking insane. I mean, a lot of them. What I would like to share here is an absolutely frightening observation. And I invite you to explore discerning this hard division within the spiritual movements, within the New Age movements. It's always 50-50%. 50% attempting to bring in, quote unquote, the divine feminine, compassion, care, emotional intelligence, empathy, how to listen to other people, how to have harmonious relationships, which means we show up, we listen to each other's needs in supportive types of way. We're trying to anchor this medicine that has not been present in our religious teaching. And then 50% of the New Age movement, at least, is preaching a religion of disassociation. Have you not noticed that all of your New Age interactions have had this mixture between true compassion and true meaning and true healing and disassociation? How to not show up, how to not care, how to not be present, and how to be happy. It's all about our happiness, isn't it? Yeah, it's fucking insane. I can't even believe it that I have to actually say this. That nobody's talking about the insane mixture between compassion and disassociation in the same exact places. The same exact churches, the same exact temples, the same exact religions, the same exact teachers. We are all a crazy mixed up conglomeration. We're confused, we're hurting, we're starving, and we don't know why, because our main religious, spiritual teachings are 50-50 bullshit. If you're not digging through this stuff and realizing that this is work that has not happened yet, then I can recognize this being a little bit of an exciting and a revolutionary message. But guess what? The full moon's conjunct Jupiter retrograde. Is it time to just accept the mainstream religion, or is it the time to challenge it? Aquarius can be iconoclasm. So be it. What are we worshiping, and why, and how is it working for us? The religion of disassociation, an extraordinarily popular and well-supported teaching in the New Age movement, how to avoid feeling for anyone in the room who is suffering. You see, when you're in the same room as somebody else who is suffering, you feel their pain, if you have any empathy. And I know that some people in the New Age movement are trying really hard to become sociopaths. And there are some sociopaths that have the guru chair and leading cults. I mean, I'm trying very hard not to drop names, but that's not the point right now, right? We're trying to understand the actual ontological, philosophical, so that way you can discern the teachers without me having to drop the names. That would be way, way better, way more appreciated. Thank you very much. If you have any empathy at all, you feel other people's feelings as if they're your own. If somebody is suffering in the room with you, you're going to feel their suffering. And you know what? That might be inconvenient for your own happiness. Do you think that anyone who devotes themselves to compassion cares about that? The Divine Mother is not asking, how can we get our children to take better care of themselves, those annoying little pricks, right? if the child is crying out for food because the child authentically is starving and needs food, I'm pretty sure the Divine Mother's immediate response is, how can we get this child this food? Because the child's going to learn how to feed themselves. But first we have to get people what they are starved of. So we're in the room with somebody who is suffering, right? And we try to help them, right? We may try to give them what they need, but you know what? It's not always that simple. And you know what? We don't always have a solution. That's very hard for somebody who would like to be an enlightened guru, always happy figure. We're supposed to have the one-liner that just magically makes everybody better, or to boop, touch somebody on the head so they can have their instant enlightenment experience, as if any of that bullshit were real. The New Age movement is rampant with platitudes. Platitudes, you know. When things are challenging, you pick yourself up. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. You know, it's these sayings that what they actually do, what the platitudes actually do is disable compassion. They're a way of disassociating from the actual lived feeling-based experience of interaction. That's what a platitude does. So when somebody is suffering in the room, there's going to be half of the New Age movement saying, don't take away from me my happiness. You can take care of yourself on your own. This is what you got to do, blah, 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 blah. I cannot even fathom. It's unbelievable to me how much of a response I have gotten when I clearly am showing up starving and stating needs. And you know what it has showed me? People do not care. Like, I would like to believe that people are just confused, and so they're out there preaching and adopting the religion of disassociation. But the reason why people are preaching and adopting the religion of disassociation is because it's easy, they don't care. It's easier to have what you need given to you without recognizing what those needs are, so you can sit on your guru chair and pretend that you're ascended because you did it. And guess what? That's not how it is. People have all their needs met. And then we're loving, happy people. Even if there's somebody in the room that's miserable. Because if we're happy, loving people, and there's someone in the room that's miserable, we automatically spill over into caring and protecting for them. That's love. That's the divine feminine. I always am acknowledging the figures out there in the world that are this way because they don't see themselves. They're constantly giving, 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 giving. The religion of disassociation is how to preserve mania, sociopathy. Being happy all the time is fucking crazy. Ain't nobody happy all the time that's healthy. Ain't nobody happy all the time that's healthy. I can tell you who the sociopaths are. They smile a little bit too much. They're doing something creepy behind the scenes, those people that smile a little bit too much. I've been firsthand witness to this shit. The religion of disassociation is how to use others when convenient. Spirituality and religion can be the most deceptive thing on the planet. If you are not aware of your snares in any practice, in any tradition, there's gonna be snares. There's gonna be ways to go off on the high horse. There's gonna be blind spots. Any spiritual practice. I hate when people go off on their foolproof spiritual practice. It is just spreading harm, because what those people are doing is preaching the religion of disassociation. And as they're preaching the religion of disassociation, they are shutting down their ability to listen to other people's needs via their heart, via their care, via their compassion. If you do not know what the snares are in your particular path or tradition, you're causing harm. If we don't know our shadow, we don't know the person. Every person's got a shadow. Everybody's got snares. If we're not talking about what those snares are, how can we ask for what we need? If we're not talking about what we need, we're not a human. All of these religious preachers teaching disassociation are not being human. And they're teaching us all to lose our humanity. how am I supposed to deliver this message in a way that's going to be palatable to anybody? You know, this is just like charge. This is going to trigger people. This is going to upset people. But I hope that you can all understand where it's coming from. I'm not like attacking any particular person. This is like, oh my God, this is everywhere, everything, everybody. You know, the religion of disassociation, how to not be in a body, how to not have feelings, how to not have needs. This is also called transcendence culture. Transcendence culture. It's like, I need to be so careful here because transcendence is real, right? We don't want to become overly attached to the small stuff. That's just a distraction and getting in the way, right? We all got to learn how to, move and breathe and how to have a healthy autonomy and how to have a relationship with God that supports us when nobody else does. That's what these practices are there for. And that's what authentic transcendence is. And so I have to be careful because I don't want to freaking demonize the whole of everything good and medicinal coming out of these paths and traditions and throw the baby out with the bathwater. Absolutely not. There is healthy transcendence, but it's not what's important for our species right now. We've had thousands of years of patriarchy. We've had thousands of years of how to leave your body, ignore your sexuality, ignore your senses, ignore your emotions. The divine feminine's been chewed out, raped for thousands of years. And then the religion of disassociation says, yeah, but you know what? It's not that big of a deal, right? And you can do it, right? By yourself. And you don't really have any human needs, right? This religion of disassociation is victim blaming, is trauma shaming. What actually happens is the most wounded, suffering people enter the room and all of the religious bigots teach the other folks in the room how to ignore them because they're such a drama queen, or they're such a rubble rouser, or look at them with all of their negativity. And I wonder why they're so negative, because they choose to. The religion of disassociation is how everything in life is about us having this black and white, you choose heaven or you choose hell. And it's just like, come on. I hope that this is just at least providing some food for thought, because this is my subjective rant that is simply providing an example as to how these dynamics can be coming up for all of us. We have to challenge our belief system, how we approach the whole of life, so we can form new ontologies, new belief systems that are actually, Jupiter and Aquarius, this is about addressing PTSD. This is about healing trauma. This is what I've been talking about for years, because that's what we're actually doing as a species. No, we're not just ascending. Like, yes, ascension is real, but let's actually get into the meat of bones of what's going on, and you're going to have a very different vantage point. Start actually having one-on-one interactions with people in hell, people who are suffering, people who have chronic illness, people who have diseases. We get a very, very, very different perspective when we go into those dark places in the one-on-one settings and environments, because what we realize is that there is no one size fits all, besides the fact that we're all dealing with PTSD, the fact that we're all working to heal our body, nervous system, mind, spirit connection. That's what we all share in common, because we have all experienced the traumas separating our consciousness from our body. That's what patriarchal religion has done, now continuing to be circulated through the religion of disassociation, which is taught side by side matriarchal teachings in these new age gatherings and retreats and schools, and nobody notices. It's like, are you serious? It's like, where are we? I really live this absolutely surreal experience sometimes, being just like, am I alone in the room? Why are we all pretending that we're all agreeable, that we're all on the same page? It's not like that at all. Oh my God. And everyone needs to do their research. Again, it's the new age platitudes. We are, and this is what I see time and time again, we're being taken advantage of by these beliefs and these assumptions, right? If we just trust and live and let live, God will take care of everything. And it's true, and it's also way more complex than that at the same time, right? We're given evolutionary curriculum that's a lot more complex and challenging than you chose the right thing, and so now everything's carrying you forward from this point forward, you know. We have to get into the nitty-gritty details. That's why we need to do research. The North Node in Gemini, it's about doing research, it's about talking to a diversity of people, it's about getting the facts, it's about getting the information, so that way we can look at the same challenge from different vantage points. And when we get that different vantage point, you know, we have realizations. Like, for example, hey, before I moved to Costa Rica to join this crazy guy's delusional astrology cult, maybe I should Google his name followed by the two words sexual misconduct. Because for somebody to put themselves on stage as a spiritual teacher reprimanding everybody else about their own sexuality, when there's a whole lot of other stuff going on beneath the surface, that might be useful information to know. I think that everybody should be informed before they join the crazy delusional new age cult and give away all their money and sell their soul to an abuser. Are we able to reflect and digest upon some of this? I hope that we can all embrace the need to remain objective while we are experiencing all of these disturbances going on every single day. Unpredictability, curveballs, what we thought was right, is it right? How it appears on the surface, is that what it actually is? I can guarantee you, if you're one of those dissociative priests and priestesses, you have no fucking clue what actually is. Are the people that preach and practice the religion of disassociation actually getting into anything? No, they stay on cloud nine and look through this extraordinary detachment. And is there any judgment that's healthy? Is there any discernment that's accurate? No. For those people that are preaching the religion of disassociation, they start to live a crazy, funhouse mirror. Everything is just like conspiracy, and it turns into this detached from reality. It's just like all this stuff starts to float around is kind of how I feel. There's no actual landing. Why things are? There's just this really crazy, scary experience when we don't get into anything, right? And when we get into stuff, it's scary to face our shadow. It's scary to explore conflict. We all have to explore conflict, right? I'm saying, hey, there's this huge disagreement in the New Age movement, and I'm like the person showing up with my cranky mouth to initiate the conflict. This is a necessary conflict. I've been saying this for frickin' a year, and everyone is fighting against me. Oh no, New Age movement. We all need to be agreeable. We all need to be love and light, inclusion and love and unconditional love. And do you want to sign up for the abusive cult? Yes or no? We need discernment. We need judgment. I'm delivering a harsh truth here. Wouldn't it be nice if we could all get along and sing Kumbaya? But you know what? It's fucking horseshit right now. Mars has been square the moon's node, so it's an easy, trigger-sensitive, reactive time. Mars has been in Virgo square the moon's nodes. I mean, we're really having to look at our body, our system, our sexuality. And you know what? It's not all perfectly together, is it? It's not all perfectly clean. So the key here, Mars square the nodes, is to create the necessary initiation, to lead, to act, to create the safe space to explore our own desires, our own instincts. Why do we have these instincts? Why do we have these desires? Why do I want to rip the heart out of some people that I had close relationships to because I'm so angry at them all the time? And how can I transform that into something that's actually productive and constructive and building something up in the world and leading something that's not just mindlessly criticizing? So, because, I take a look in the mirror. I hope you all know this. Like, I'm far from a perfect person. I've got a pretty great degree of awareness of my own shadow, and I hold myself accountable to the point where I have to be careful of how much I hold myself accountable, because I have learned and compared myself to other people that don't do any of this. And it's like, wow, maybe I shouldn't make myself a target when, maybe that's not totally right. But anyways, the point is, We have to explore these parts of ourselves. And I am somebody that can be quite reactive and pointing out what's not working, being a little bit bitter and a little bit negative, and that's not as effective as communicating what is needed and where our world can be going and how can we productively improve things. Um, you know, I'll use the gender pronoun thing as a quick example here. We could drill people for, hey, right or wrong gender pronoun. Gee, that's a hard gender pronoun to learn. Yeah, okay, that's a criticism and maybe a useful one. So what's a more helpful response? How can we get you what you need? Is the question we should be asking. How can we get you what you need? If this way isn't working, what's another possible solution? If this is more burdensome than it needs to be, what's another possible solution? Again, I am utterly, utterly amazed at how successful the religion of disassociation is and how much money and how much support there is for it. It's like, okay, congratulations, you figured out how to dissociate. Now you can go into your sociopathic bubble and feel none of the suffering around you. So wonderful, good for you. You're having a happy experience. And might there be a more loving approach than that one? See, the religion of disassociation is defensive, protective. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that. I'm already fine. I'm already complete. I'm already ascended. I already got the teaching. Is there possibly a more loving approach than that one? Could we maybe inquire more about our own missing needs, about the missing needs in others? So that way we can start to have productive conversations. How can we create this? How can we anchor this? How can we deliver this much more charitable, much more revolutionary? Let me change pages here because I'm better at talking about the negative than the positive. This is a real challenge I have. This is a big Jupiter reflection, by the way. Philosophy, perspective. I got a Jupiter-Chiron conjunction. Chiron's the wound. So there's going to be so many awesome things born out of this time, even though we may not see it. Coming out of these questions, these trials, these struggles. How can we bring more charitable endeavors to the world? How can we connect, for example, America and all of our white person privilege and entitlement and resources with the rest of the world? Because the rest of the world's going to have resources than we don't. We think we're so perfect here in America. You know, oh, number one, blah, blah, blah. This is our conditioned culture perspective. Jupiter, national perspective and ontology. We have so many missing needs in this culture and society. Are you kidding me? We are a third world country. If we traveled to a third world country, we would probably end up feeling jealous at some times. And sometimes we might feel really guilty and entitled. And other times we might feel really jealous because we have missing needs too. Missing needs that we don't even know are missing needs. And it's a little bit easier to identify the missing needs of others when it is such a thing such as starvation or not having money or not having shelter. Sure, those are the easy basic Taurus needs. There are way more basic Taurus needs than just those. We need support. We need community. We need autonomy. We need independence. You know, I mean, there's just so many needs that we haven't even begun to map out. Let that be our future. Let's just start to map out what is an actual human experience, Aquarius. What is the actual human consciousness, Aquarius? How does that affect the body and nervous system relationship, Aquarius? And how can we improve this so that way we have a better system that's self-autonomous in ourself, Taurus, self-autonomy, but also as a species, Uranus. How can we give and exchange resources, Taurus, Venus, in a way that's actually progressive and meaningful and taking things into the future? And here is where this full moon does have a beautiful light at the end of the tunnel. That beautiful air trine between Venus, Saturn, and the moon's north node says something about let's have the conversation. Let's talk about each other's needs. Let's take turns being the counselor for ourselves, for one another. You cannot do this on your own. I am the frustrated result of already having taken the monastic path, of already having gotten chewed out by so many patriarchal teachings. I remember when I was leading an evolutionary astrology course I was putting together through the last few years, how I got so upset. And I isolated myself and I just drilled the rest of the teachers taking this course because they were teaching this idea that our Mars square the nodes in Virgo, that our health and bodily situation is the result of our spiritual orientation. Does anyone possibly detect what might be wrong with that belief and assumption? I'm pausing now because I really want people to think about this, because I was amazed that I was the only person showing up and making this point. We're really going to believe that everyone's health is a result of their spiritual orientation? Does that come from a possibly entitled and privileged situation, like you are in a healthy place and so you believe that it's your spiritual orientation that you're in a healthy place? What if you were a doctor or a nurse? What if you actually spent a huge amount of time working with people that are suffering and dealing with physical pain and disorders? I think you would quickly see it has nothing to do with their spiritual beliefs. Let me put it to you this way. Even if it were true that our physical health is the result of our spiritual orientation, the result of teaching that is victim blaming. The result of teaching that is trauma shaming. We're just pointing to people's struggles and saying, oh yeah, well, you're the cause. You're believing the right or wrong thing. You know what? You need more Kundalini yoga. Kundalini yoga is going to solve all your problems. It's going to open up all your chakras, and then you're going to just become a god and make no wrong decisions. And I wonder why some of these Kundalini yogas instructors are going fucking insane and becoming tyrants and sexual abusers. If you don't know the shadow, you don't know the person. If you don't know the flaws and the blind spots in your own particular teaching and practice, it's a big, big problem. This isn't meant to shame anybody. This is meant to point out, like, I cannot believe I'm talking about this in this way. It's such a massive blind spot. Again, I couldn't believe in the formation of this course that everyone was just like, no, Tim, you're wrong. You need to start, meditating more so that way you don't develop a chronic illness. This is ableism. This is trauma shaming. When COVID happened, it's what the New Age movement and this religion of disassociation, as I knew would happen, would go off on their high horses. Oh yeah, well, people with COVID are lower vibe. People with COVID are lower vibe. Listening to people's individual needs or disassociating from the underlying reality. Shit, I don't know how to wrap this up. I know how to wrap this up. There's good stuff I got to talk about too. Now, I'm doing this video live, so if you're here live, thanks for being here. Appreciate your comments. It keeps things exciting. My good friend is raising money for a charity in Africa. There's an orphanage that is taking care of blind and disabled children. They get no help from the government. They are able to take care of blind and disabled children because we're talking about it, because I'm going to stick the link in the video description in probably 20 minutes. Because first the live video's got to upload, and then I will have the link in the video description. We are looking for donations to help Born Like This orphanage in Kenya. Okay. These are the things we get to do. It's like, if you have resources, cool. This is called tithing. This is called Venus. We exchange, and then we state our needs, and hopefully people can come back around and provide us with what we need. So anyways, you can go to the last video. I had the link in the description too, but check that out. We have a GoFundMe page. Also, here in Marshall, they are trying to build an asphalt factory that's just going to like destroy nature and pollute everything. So I'm also going to put another link to another GoFundMe. This is a very local, affecting me personally. The people in this very small town are gathering resources to fight back against the asphalt plant. Okay? So I know I took things in my very personal, subjective addressing the New Age dynamics as I tend to do, because that's my subjective, personal platform and experience. And again, there's going to be gold in that. There's going to be shadow in that. I'm aware. I appreciate people's feedback. I don't have an automatic block and ignore when people give me negative feedback. That's also part of ending the tradition of disassociation, right? So I'm here. I need the feedback. I'm not perfect. I'm making mistakes. I can be a little blunt, a little charged, a little, I can be mean. I can be Saturn. I call people out. Be just like, shit, do you know what you're actually doing, right? So I need to work on this because it's not effective, right? It backfires. It doesn't actually land the good stuff. So the good stuff is going on, and I want to end on that note. This is a time where humanitarian groups, endeavors, communities, relationships, and collaborations are going to really, really take off. And someone said I'm butthurt. Yeah, I mean, I have been fucking destroyed by what I've experienced out there in the world. So if you want to say that I'm butthurt, fucking of course. Fucking serious? I'm a human, not a fucking dissociated guru bullshitter. Anyways, this is my thing, right? This is what always happens. The amount of inventiveness, the amount of progress, we can be synergizing, we can be combining different schools of thought, different healing modalities, different perspectives. I've only got my vantage point and perspective. You know what? I give myself pats on the back that I don't know everything, but I know something. And you know what? Other people out there got different vantage points. They see and know things that I don't. This is the opportunity to invent, to synergize, to collaborate, to create new movements, new groups, and new communities that are reinventing, because we're being forced to reinvent right now, creative solutions to pull out of this patriarchal, dying, old dinosaurs, the capitalism, the games. And you know what goes along with all of that? The expectations and obligations, the rules. You're supposed to put in this much. You're supposed to put in this much energy. You're supposed to be this devoted. You're supposed to meditate for this many hours a day. It's changing. It's changing. It's changing radically. And how I hope that it's radically changing, as is indicated by the collective needs reflected through evolutionary astrology, the north nodes of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, all in Cancer. We need to bring in matriarchal values. Any progressive humanitarian movement, group, or community is going to be anchoring and introducing, because we forgot all this, matriarchal values. How to create circles of support that listen to one another empathically, emotionally, with care. We take turns. We make sure everybody is heard. We make sure nobody is left out or forgotten. Most especially the outspoken and the downtrodden. We're creating circles for grieving, mourning, and emotional processing in a world that knows how to do none of the above. How to support each other through the process of death and loss, which is, by the way, universal to all of us. Creating circles where we can slow down, honor our own natural biology, our own rhythms, our own cycles. Women, you are our teachers. How to return to our cycles, how to return to our rhythms. We are, as a species, learning how to return to nature. We're learning how to take care of ourselves so we're not dependent on outer oppressive structures. How are we liberating ourselves from outer oppressive structures? It's not by going into the trenches and fighting darkness where darkness wants us to go, to meet them on their own level. We are no longer relying upon oppressive structures, aka we're learning sovereignty. We're learning self-resourcefulness. We're learning how to take care of each other from our own immediate local community. We're learning how to raise each other up without being dependent on social media giants, on other massive companies. We don't need that. We can revolutionize these base structures from the ground up. How that will happen is through the reawakening of the human spirit. Aquarius is the human. Aquarius is the light bearer. We have bestowed upon us, distinguishing us from other species on the planet, a capacity to invent, to look towards the future, to change what is the meaning of our life in order to grow, evolve, and increase the love, the pleasure, Taurus, the enjoyment, Taurus, and the touch. Our sensibilities need to be reawakened by ending the paradigm of dissociation, PTSD, recreating PTSD, by getting back to our body, our senses, our sensibility. This full moon squares the trans-Pluto planet Sedna, the Intuit ice queen who had her fingers cut off by her father. Sedna is the symbol for femininity in the patriarchal age. We've had our fingers, our bodies disembodied. We live in a world that is widespread, suffering the disease of disassociation. We need to return to our bodies, to return these phantom limbs to ourself. That means we get to slow down. That means we get to enjoy after we roll up our sleeves, after we carve out the path to humanity's future. So the excitement is there, folks. It's, as you all know, living in the same planet as me, a back and forth roller coaster every moment of every day. Because the future is so new and different, every single fear and inadequacy about the past repeating is going to be running through our system. Nobody's going to care. We're going to be abandoned. Nobody's there for me. It's only going to be dissociated teachers that take the microphone from here on out, and I'll be left in the sewage line, you know? We're going to feel this reverberation every day. But that is the mechanism to break down the old and, like a lightning bolt, carving the path to the future. Okay, this has been a long video. I'm going to close my Gemini rant. I appreciate you all being there. I look forward to continuing the conversation. Again, I want to see people's feedback, whether it be in my community. You can join rosalilacommunity.com. Feel free to leave a comment. You are appreciated. Thank you for your ears. Thank you for receiving this message. And thank you for being on the planet at this time, because I know that this is going to be a very active chemical reaction, and we get to really all participate in awe and wonder just what's about to happen on this planet. We'll leave it at that for now. Much love to all of you. As always, please take care.